They say if you hear scratching on your tent walls deep in the woods, don't unzip it. That's what the ranger told us when we first checked in at the park station near the Smoky Mountains. I laughed it off. Thought it was just something they said to spook the city folks. But by the time the scratching reached my face from the inside of the tent wall, I wasn't laughing anymore. It was me, my cousin Jared, and my best friend Logan. We were 22, just out of college, and thought we were wilderness warriors. We packed light, carried a couple of pocket knives, one flare gun, and enough beef jerky to survive the apocalypse. We picked a remote trail near Klingman's Dome, miles from any official campsite. No cell service. No GPS. Just topo maps and trees so thick they turned the sun into dusk. The first night was fine, just the usual wind creaking branches and Jared farting like he was trying to scare off bears. But that second night was when everything changed. We had hiked off trail and found this clearing that felt wrong. It wasn't just the way the air hung still, like a held breath, it was the fact that nothing grew in a wide circle at the center. No shrubs. No moss. Just bare soil. Like the earth had been scrubbed clean. Jared thought it was the perfect place to pitch the tent. I argued, but Logan shrugged and said, "We're already here. Don't be dramatic." We set up camp right on the edge of that dead circle. That night, I was the last one awake. I couldn't sleep. Something about the silence outside was too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, vacuum quiet. No bugs. No owls. Just the sound of Logan's slow breathing and Jared's occasional snoring. And then I heard it. A faint scuffling. Not from far off in the woods. From the wall of the tent. At first, I thought it was a raccoon. But then it moved, low and slow, along the side of the tent. I froze. It circled us once. Then again. Then I heard the zipper, our tent zipper, rattle like someone was flicking it with a nail. And then, nothing. Silence. I sat up and grabbed the flashlight, heart hammering. Logan murmured in his sleep. Jared rolled over. And then I heard it. Inside. A light dragging sound. Like nails over nylon. Inside the tent wall. My skin prickled. I didn't want to shine the flashlight, I didn't want to see. But I had to. I aimed it toward the sound and flipped the switch. Nothing. No one. But there was a new seam in the tent wall. A jagged slit no bigger than a hand. Like something had slipped through. I grabbed my knife and whispered to Logan, "Wake up." He stirred, groggy. "What?" But before I could say anything else, Jared sat bolt upright. "Did you hear it too?" he said. I didn't even ask what. He had felt it. We sat in silence for what felt like an hour. Nothing else moved. Nothing made a sound. Eventually, we chalked it up to an animal, though none of us really believed it. We didn't unzip the tent until sunrise. When we did, we found tracks. Not paw prints. Hand prints. 5-fingered, long, wide, and deep. Pressed into the soil, circling the tent. Over and over and over. But they didn't lead to or from the clearing. They just stopped. Dead center. In that lifeless patch of dirt. And worse, the slit in our tent wall, it wasn't there anymore. The nylon was seamless. Intact. Like nothing had ever pierced it. We packed up in silence. Hiked all the way back to the ranger station without saying a word. When we got there, the ranger we spoke to was an older guy. Grizzled. Kind of looked like a Civil War reenactor. We told him what we'd seen. What we'd heard. And he didn't laugh. He just nodded, slowly, and said, "You set up near the dead clearing, didn't you?" My stomach dropped. He leaned in close and whispered, "That ground's not supposed to grow anything." Something lives there. Something that moves between seams. It waits for people to stop watching. Then he handed us an old, worn patch, like the kind you'd iron onto a jacket. For your tent, he said. Next time, so it closed before you sleep. We never went camping again. And to this day, I still wake up some nights to the sound of faint scratching. But I don't own a tent anymore. And I sleep with the lights on. There are places in the forest that don't show up on maps. Old places. Forgotten for a reason. My story takes place in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, near a small lake called Deadman's Hollow. Me and two friends, Tasha and Vic, had driven up for a long weekend hike. No cell service. No backup. Just a couple of backpacks, a water purifier, and the dumb idea that we could survive 3 days in an area known by locals as Witch Pines. The first day was uneventful. Beautiful, even. The forest up there is thick with spruce and birch, and the trails twist like they're trying to lose you. Which is exactly what they did. By the second day, we were lost. Our compass was spinning slowly in a way I've never seen before. Not broken, just confused. The GPS wouldn't boot. No signal. The map showed us in a loop, like we kept returning to the same place over and over. That's when we found it. A shack. One room. No windows. Set back in a grove of dead trees, maybe 50 yards off the trail. At first, we thought it was a hunter's cabin. But when we stepped inside, we realized it hadn't been abandoned. Not even close. There was a tin pot still steaming over a small fire. A sleeping bag laid out on a cot. A single book open to the middle, The Lost Tribes of North America. And here's the part that really got to me, the air inside was warm. Like someone had just stepped out. Vic muttered, "Someone's still here." Tasha went for her phone. We should leave a note, let them know we stopped in. But as she lifted it to take a photo, the screen went black. Just black. Not even a flicker. Then we heard the crunch. Footsteps. Outside. Vic peeked through the crack in the door. No one there. More crunching. Now around the back. We all froze. Another footstep. And then, a voice. Not shouting. Not talking. Chanting. It was low, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. But it wasn't English. Tasha whispered, "What is that?" Vic, a linguistics major of all things, said, "I think it's Algonquin, maybe Cree. I don't know. It's old." The chanting grew louder. Closer. Then it stopped. We held our breath. And then came 3 knocks. Slow. Deliberate. Right at the center of the shack door. Talk. 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 No one moved. No one breathed. Another knock. Lower this time. As if someone had gone down on all fours. I stepped forward. Just once. And I saw something I'll never forget. There was a shadow beneath the door. Not a person's shadow. It was too long. Too wide. And it moved. Not like a living thing. Like smoke crawling through a pipe. I backed up fast. Vic whispered, "They're not trying to get in. They're trying to make us go out." That's when the fire went out. All at once. Like someone clapped the flame shut. We were plunged into darkness. Tasha screamed. I fumbled for my lighter. Flicked it open. For a brief second, I saw all 3 of our faces reflected in the windowless wall in front of us. Except, there were 4 faces. One over Vic's shoulder. Watching us. Its mouth was wide. Hollow. No eyes. Just open. I dropped the lighter. Total darkness again. Then silence. No chanting. No footsteps. No breathing but our own. We stayed in that shack until daylight bled through the seams in the wall. When we finally stepped outside, there were no footprints. No sign of anything. Just one thing left behind. Above the doorframe, carved into the wood, Wendigo speaks in circles. We ran. All day. Didn't stop until we hit a road and flagged down a passing forestry truck. Later, I looked up the phrase. There's an Ojibwe legend about spirits that speak in loops. If you answer them, they know your name. We hadn't answered. But we had listened. And that night, alone in my bed, I heard chanting. Outside my window. And no one was there. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Evergreen forests so dense they feel like cathedrals. My younger brother, Caleb, and I spent most of our childhood outdoors, climbing trees, fishing, and later, camping. But nothing prepared us for what happened last fall, on our final brothers trip. It was supposed to be a simple weekend, 2 nights deep in the Cascades, no phones, no distractions. Just us, a fire, and a chance to reconnect. Caleb had just gotten out of the military. He wasn't the same. Quiet. Always watching the tree line like he expected something to jump out. He never said much about what he saw overseas. But he did say this, there's something worse than people out there. At the time, I thought it was a metaphor. It wasn't. We hiked to a clearing near a glacial lake, set up camp, and made a fire. That first night was quiet. Too quiet, actually. No crickets, no owls, just the wind moving low through the trees like it was whispering. I woke up sometime around 2 a.m. There was a voice outside the tent. It was Caleb's. Hey, you up? I turned to my side. He was in the tent, fast asleep, face slack, chest rising slow. But the voice was still there. Right outside. Hey, man, come check this out. I sat up, paralyzed. The voice was perfect. Same tone, same speech pattern. Except it was flat. Emotionless. Like someone repeating a recording with no soul behind it. Then it said something Caleb never calls me, come on, buddy. He hasn't called me that since we were 8. I didn't answer. The voice got quieter. As if it was moving away. So I waited. Heart pounding. Until I fell asleep again, barely. In the morning, I didn't tell Caleb. He was already on edge. We spent the day fishing and joking around, trying to pretend nothing was off. But when night came again, the air got heavier. The woods felt too still. Like they were waiting. I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, Caleb said, I don't think we're alone. I asked him why. He said, I saw someone in the trees earlier. They moved like they didn't have bones. I laughed. A weak, nervous sound. But he didn't smile. Later that night, I heard the voice again. Help me. Same voice. My voice this time. Please. I'm stuck. It sounded like me, screaming from somewhere just beyond the light of the fire. Caleb sat bolt upright. You heard that? He asked. It called again. Help me, this time. Both of us were awake. And we were both right there. But the voice wasn't coming from either of us. He grabbed the rifle and flashlight. We're leaving. Now. We packed up in under 5 minutes, yanked the tent stakes out half done. As we started back down the trail, the flashlight began to flicker. The voice followed us. Caleb. Wait. Where are you going? Still my voice. Then it became his. Come back here. We're not done talking. But it wasn't behind us. It was ahead. Off the trail. We kept moving, fast and silent. until we came to the ridge and found the path split in two. There was no fork on the way in. Caleb froze. It's trying to divide us. That's when the voices switched. My voice called to Caleb from one trail. His voice called to me from the other. They sounded frantic, pleading. Help! I fell. Come on, I see a cabin. We didn't speak. We didn't move. Then Caleb turned to me and said, ask me something only I'd know. What's Mom's final voicemail before she died? He blinked. She said, don't fight with your brother over money. Promise me. I nodded. That's you. We turned back. The voices behind us screamed. Not words, just sounds. High-pitched, inhuman wailing that echoed in the trees like a dying animal being stretched apart. We ran the last mile through the forest, didn't stop until we hit the gravel lot by the trailhead and collapsed near the truck. The next morning, Caleb said he remembered something from Afghanistan, something the locals told him. A tale about the Bendith Waimamo, the Mimickers. Entities that don't live in this world, but press up against it. They can't come through fully, but if you answer, they learn. They wear you. I never answered. But I came close. Too close. Back in my apartment now, I sometimes hear Caleb's voice calling to me when I'm alone in the shower. And Caleb lives 2 states away. I don't answer. Not anymore. Or they're uncharted, but because they shouldn't be found. The stories you've just heard aren't isolated. They're threads woven into the tapestry of the deep woods, where the laws of nature bend, where something ancient watches, waits, and sometimes reaches through the veil. Those who wander too far off the beaten path risk more than getting lost. They risk becoming part of the forest's dark whispers. So remember this, if you ever find yourself staring at a blank spot on your GPS. If the compass spins wild, if the trails loop back on themselves, if the trees fall silent and the wind stops moving, don't go looking for answers. Because some places don't want to be found. And some voices are better left unheard. Thank you for listening to these true deep woods camping horror stories. If you're brave enough to venture back into the forest, just remember, keep your tent zipped tight, watch for the shadows that move beneath the door, and never, never, follow a voice that's calling you by name.